if we have the Revit model, if I go back into the ground floor plan, for example, we have obviously all our walls and everything are sitting in here. We don't need to worry about the area of the structure because it's just taken as read that this is part of the floor area. So you don't need to worry if there's columns in there that they have to be removed from the calculation or anything. It's completely general. What we do need to worry about is if I select this garden wall here, for example, I need to check whether it's set to room bounding or not. If it's set to room bounding, Revit is calculating this area as being a room, which is not what we wanted to do. We wanted to not to think about this area at all. We just wanted to think about the house. So I'm going to select that wall and I'm going to switch room bounding off. And I'm going to select this wall and I'm going to select room bounding and switch it off. It hasn't changed the model in any way, but it means that Revit is not going to think about this stuff when it's calculating floor areas. So then I go up to architecture, and a couple of weeks ago we talked about making room plans and making room areas, but over here we've got one that's just called area, which is the overall calculation of the area. So if I press that, I get area plan and just area. The easy thing to do is to press area plan, and then Revit will actually create a new version of your floor plan. So I press area plan, just cancel that. It asks me, well, what type of area plan do I want? Do I want rentable or gross building? We want gross building area. And it's asking what level do I want it on? Let's say ground floor level. And if I press OK, it asks automatically create boundary lines. Yes. So then it thinks about it for a minute. And you can see it draws this purple line around your area to the outside of the walls, which is what we want. Right in here, it's calculated the floor area of the building. So if I zoom in there, there's a little tag which I can then select and move to a place that's kind of readable. So now we know the ground floor is 125 square meters as construction floor area. It's also created a new plan over here under the area plans. So ground floor level has its own drawing over here under area plans. So it turns up in the drawing list on the left. So then we just need to repeat it again. So I'm going to go back into the first floor level now. And I'm going to go to architecture, area plan. This time, make sure I select the correct type, gross building area, first floor level. Okay, yes. So now it's done the same thing for the upper level. In this case, they're both the same, but they won't always be the same. So that kind of gives you the basis of it. So now it's made some area plans for us, and that's fine, but we actually wanted to calculate that area as well. So this is where we start to talk about one of the most important tools in Revit that we get to after the first semester, which is schedules and quantities. So under schedules and quantities, especially what schedules and quantities is a way for Revit to calculate all the materials, all the floor areas, or everything in the model without you having to do it by hand. So we're going to get it to make a schedule of the areas of the building. So I'm going to right click on schedules and quantities, and you can see here you get new schedules. You got a few different options in here. You can make a sheet list as well of all the drawings in your project if you want. But I'm just going to say new schedule there, and I'm just going to roll it down until I get to gross building areas, which is what we want to schedule of, and press OK. And once I do that, I get this dialog. And this dialog is asking me, well, what do you want to talk about in this schedule? Do you want area type, commons count, all this kind of stuff? We don't need all those things. We just need the area, and maybe we need the level that it's at. So we can see what level has what area and so on. We can add other things to it later if we want to. If I add that there and press OK, we get this tiny little schedule over here, which is shows us that the area of each level is 125, and it also gives us the name of the area. Okay? I'll just pause that for a second. All right. So I was just getting into how to format these things. So we have formatting, so I can go into formatting over here, which opens up the format tab, and I can say select area and then ask it to calculate the totals. And under sorting and grouping, we need to tell it also to calculate the grand totals. If I press OK, it just does a very simple schedule like that where it calculates all the totals. It doesn't really make a lot of sense if you're doing a single family house, but if you're doing an enormous building of lots and lots of different floors at different levels and so on, it will automatically update the schedule based on your model. Again, we can kind of play with the sorting. We can kind of sort it in different ways. If I press that, does it do anything? No, not really. If I give it a header, it will just put a little title on top of everything, which is not necessary if you've only got two levels really. If I give it a footer, it will talk about it at the bottom in the other kind of way. So there's kind of stuff you can do in there. We don't really need it for this tiny little schedule. Okay, let me just pause that. All these values that we have in Revit in the schedule, we can actually also get Revit to do the calculations for us. So let's go back and see what the value is. If I go in here and go up again, let's go back and see what the value I gave you. So if I say 9386.37 is this the price of a square meter, yeah? I can put that parameter into Revit as well. So I'm just going to go in here in the fields and I just say add calculated value. Now the first thing I'll do is I'll add the parameter because we want the cost of one of them. Can you see that?
Area type?
No, not this, over here.
Oh.
So I'm going to say add a parameter. So you can actually add a parameter that has any value you want in Revit. Now this is a little bit, you don't necessarily need to do this. It's just if you get your head around this, your whole life gets much easier afterwards. Okay. So I'm just going to put in here square meter cost. Oops. Don't worry about that. So so then we just have to choose what type of parameter it is. I'm going to change it to currency, and that's okay. If I just press OK now, you can see we've got square meter cost turns up in the at the top here. So I can actually go in here and fill in the figure for it. So what was the figure again? Let's go back. It was 9386.37. I'm going to put in 9386.37, and we need to put it on both levels because it might be a different cost for each level. And so we have a parameter in there. So now we have the area of the floor and we have the square meter of the floor. So to get the initial cost, all we need to do is multiply the two of them together. Okay? Yeah. So now we have the area, we have the square meter value, we just need to multiply them together, okay? So in the same fields properties, schedule properties, we have this option for calculated value. If I press calculated value, we can just say square meter cost. Oh no, we'll call this one total. Oh, God damn it. Total square meter cost. It's a formula, and we want it also to be a currency. And down here we make the formula. So the formula is area, and then we use the computer sign for multiplied by, which is this star, multiplied by square meter cost. If you try and multiply them together like this without doing anything else, it will cause an error. So we need to divide it by 1 to remove the fact that they're from different categories, okay? That's just the one thing you need to remember that always screws everybody up. If I press OK, it's calculated the entire cost of the square meter there, okay? And then we just do the same thing again. We go to the formatting tool and we say calculate totals, and it's calculated the total of the house up to this point here, okay? Now you can continue to add all the different adjusters in there, and the video I have at the end of this lecture goes through each individual one if you want to follow it step by step, or you can just kind of use your brains and try and figure it out for yourself. Okay? Resume this. We're in the middle of Copenhagen. So that means that the geographical adjustment is 1.05. Yeah? So let's go back into Revit and put that in. So we're going to go to fields. And it's exactly the same process each time. So this time I'm going to add a new parameter called geographic adjustment. So I'll just call it GeoADJ. And the type of parameter is a number. Just make it a number. That's okay. So now we've got the parameter in here, the geographic adjustment. If I just press OK now, it gives us another blank place to put the adjustment in here. So I'm going to call it 1.05. 1.05. You have to do it on both levels. 1.05. And now we just make another calculated value. Will I slow down? Is that okay?
I didn't do the square cost. That was what I wanted to know.
First, now I'll give you a hand. So then we just go back in and make a new calculated value. And I'm just going to call this square meter after geo. And this is a lot of work to set up the very first time you do it, but in actual fact, if you do it once, you can plug in your second semester project into it, your third semester project into it, you have all your actual project into it, and it will just work each time. So what am I doing? Square meter cost after the geo adjustment, currency, and then the formula is total square meter cost multiplied by the geo adjustment.
This time you don't have to divide by one?
No, because they're both currencies.
Okay.
Well, maybe I got that wrong, but anyway, never mind. So that gives us a square meter cost after the adjustment. Then we change the formatting and make it calculate the totals. So each time you do it, it gives you a new total all the way along. Okay. So then you just keep going through it until you fill in everything, and that means is that you have, as I keep saying, a project set up that you can use for the rest of your lives.